roll call for us?
Yes, I will. Here in person, we have myself, Violet Plummer, Kyla Leonards, Chris Lounsbury, John Hart, and Commissioners Strohmeyer and Vero. And calling in over Teams, we have Amanda Henthorn, Andrew Chorney, Annie Cathy, Aaron Couts, Jamar Galbraith, Jean Jenkins, Mel Fisher, Michelle Denman, Nancy Rattel, Leidy Wagner, Martin Kidston, Nicole Rush, and Travis Stiles. Did I miss anybody? Okay.
Thanks, Violet. As per tradition and state law, is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? And for folks on the line, as usual, if you would like to raise your hand when offering comment or requesting to be recognized to offer comment, please do so, and we'll call on you in the order in which you raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, let's move right into our action items today. We've got a few juicy ones, some less so, some more so. The first one, Kyla, please bring to us a board appointment for Missoula Rural Fire District.
Yes, good morning. We had a resignation from the current secretary, Chuck Beagle, as of August 4th, 2021. We opened up the application. We had one new applicant, Jeff Merritt. He lives within the Missoula Rural Fire District and is qualified to serve on the board. And we also received a letter of support from Chief Newman for Jeff as well. So the appointment would be to fill the remainder of the vacant term through May 31st, 2024.
Okay, any questions, Juanita?
Nope, especially with the letter of support from Chief, I feel good about
Okay,
Jeff Merritt to fill the remainder of the vacant term. That's my motion.
there is a motion. I will second that. Is there any further public comment or any further discussion or public comment on this item? Seeing none. All in favor?
Hey.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Kyla. And the next item, which could slip by most folks, but is a pretty big deal. It's one of the things that we have to do every year, and that is adopt a budget for Missoula County. So Amanda, since you've just appeared on the screen, I assume that you will be sharing with us any updates on this item, and we will be taking final action today on the budget. As seen in the agenda, this is, I'll just read it off here. This is to approve the FY 2022 budget resolution and set appropriations as outlined in the ever popular attachments A, B, and C. Amanda.
That's correct. I'm asking you to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget this year. I have a short presentation to just kind of give you an update on where we are. So I will go ahead and pull that up.
Please do.
All right, so today we're going to look at the final budget. All of this information is available on the county website at the address listed there on the slides. And today is the big day where hopefully you will approve it. I'm going to take us through a brief overview first. Our total budget revenues for this fiscal year are $171 million. $91.8 million of that is other revenues. Other revenues include things like intergovernmental revenues, so any payments we get from the federal government, the state, or the city. There's also grants and reimbursements and contractual agreements in those intergovernmental revenues. There's also license and permits. So if you go down to Public Works and get a building or electrical permit, that would also be considered an other revenue for this particular chart. And then there's also charges for services. If you have a subdivision that you're having reviewed by Community and Planning Services, or you receive medical services at the Missoula City County Health Department or Partnership Health Center, those would be charges for services. Property taxes are $59.4 million. Entitlement share from the state will be approximately $4.4 million. And our transfers in will be 15.6. Our total budget expenditures for this year are $173.8 million. Personnel makes up the largest portion of that at 82.6 million. And operations is also a significant portion at 63.7. And we also have some spending planned for capital, debt service, and then our transfers out this year. The things that aren't included in that budget data are our COVID-19 expenditures that we anticipate for this year, just as a measurement stick. For fiscal year 21, we spent over $14 million for testing, vaccination, contact tracing, temporary employees, and other COVID mitigation measures. All of that money has been reimbursed from parts of state and federal programs, and it's mitigated the need for us to need to raise taxes locally, and we expect that to continue into the next fiscal year. It also doesn't include any money from the ARPA federal COVID recovery program, and all of the expenditures related to ARPA will be covered by the revenues that we'll be getting from that. And there'll be separate meetings and presentations of our ARPA spending plans, including the first hearing, which would happen at your public meeting this afternoon at 2 p.m. And also, we don't budget our cash savings from prior years. And that is makes up, in essence, the $2.8 million difference that funds one-time items between our total expenditures and total revenues in the charts that I just went through. There were a few changes since the final hearing, now that we're at adoption. There were some changes to the building code budget since their budget was submitted in June. There have been some personnel changes that were significant enough to need to update that budget and just kind of realign with the current situation and turnover that's happened in that particular department. In the Parks Department, it realigned a couple one-time expenses, and they had been ongoing, and we switched them to one time because the fund had some extra cash and we're saving for future things. In the Community Justice Department, they have a lot of grants, and we had some updates to the grant funding for that. And then the general fund, there's no overall financial impact across all of the funds from the action that we took there. But because of some of the legal and tax reporting requirements recently enacted by the legislature and our previous bond sale and some other things, we moved some things around for the Fairgrounds Special District and making the payments for that. So just a brief overview of what the property tax impacts are. Andrew covered a lot of this in the preliminary and final budget hearings, which are available on that website, missoula.co/budgets. There are two components of the property tax increase. There's the Montana DOR reappraisal process, which is completed every 2 years. For this particular fiscal year, the average Missoula County reappraisal increase was 15%. Just looking at the county in these examples, but there are other jurisdictions that impact that total calculation, including Missoula County Schools, the city, statewide school support, so the university system, and then location-based districts such as Missoula Rural Fire, who just got their new board member. And there's the detailed calculation steps that Andrew walked through on how to figure out what your increase might be as a result of the DOR reappraisal process that were in the final budget hearing. That hearing's available on the Missoula County YouTube channel, and there's a link there for you, and it's also on the Missoula County budget page. The second component is county services. So all of our department heads submit a budget each year. That budget includes base increases, and we've talked a lot about those in previous meetings already, but one of the kind of hallmarks that we got to this year was a $15 per hour minimum starting wage for all long-term kind of permanent positions at the county. We also had a 3% health insurance cost increase this year, just like Everywhere else, we're subject to, increases in prescription drug pricing and all of those kinds of things that contribute to that. And then you also reviewed over 100 new requests for funding this year. And the items that you chose to approve were added to the budget. And the ones that you did not, which were over $2.6 million, were not. And just as some context, that's not a process that's taken lightly. And I counted it up, and we spent about 70 hours between department meetings and request meetings and reviewing requests to make those decisions this year. So what's the kind of impact for property taxes this year? In terms of the Montana Department of Revenue reappraisal process, if the average Missoula County home had that 15% assessed value increase to $350,000 for this fiscal year that we saw across the county, that's about $140 of an increase in the county portion of the property taxes. So that doesn't include the other jurisdictions that I mentioned, like the city or statewide school support or other districts. For county services, the second component, if that $350,000 home was in the city of Missoula, there'll be a $0 overall increase for county services and all of the voter approved bonds for parks and trails, which helped construct Fort Missoula Regional Park, and the open space bonds that were passed. For a Missoula County home, there'll be an additional $10.21 increase for county services and those voter-approved bonds. And those are driven by increases for the road department and a $110,000 that we added back to try and make up for the huge hole by the loss of the gas tax. The health department and animal control and the countywide services that they provide. They are one of the departments that really over the last couple of years has made a push to that $15 minimum starting wage. And so that has impacted their budget. So overall, a home worth about $350,000 this year would see about $140 total increase in the county portion of property taxes in the city of Missoula. And for Missoula County, it would be just over $150 for that $350,000 home in the county. So with that, that's kind of the update on where we ended up. And if you have any comments or questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thanks, Amanda. And this is a continuation of a public hearing that we started quite some time back with beginning with our preliminary budget hearing, continuing through final budget and on to today. So to begin with, is there anyone on the line who would like to comment? Any members of the public who would like to offer comment on the fiscal year 2022 budget? If so, if you're on Microsoft Teams, please raise your hand and we'll call on you. Okay. Any questions, Juanita, or
No,
comments?
none, but just appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And Amanda, thanks for tallying those hours, 70 hours in discussion about what we ultimately had to deny. I didn't know that figure, so thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I would echo the same appreciation. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, budget team. And thank you, everyone, including members of the public who offered input on this fiscal year's budget. It's been a long process. We start this many, many months prior to a day like today. And believe it or not, we will probably be rolling into thinking about the FY 2023 budget before you know it. So
In February, is that right, Amanda?
I don't know. 3 of your next 5 items will affect this budget. So I'm not ready for 2023 yet, but soon.
okay, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Okay, anything else?
If I had one last comment that I could
Yes.
make, in the resolution, as we discussed, there's an opportunity and some additional language for Andrew to be able to approve adjustments to the county budget if there are specific circumstances, primarily for our grants, which over the course of this past year, a lot of the budget amendments that I've brought to public meetings were for grants where there was no, all the revenues and all the expenditures equaled each other, so they were basically neutral. So this will allow him to approve those as long as you guys have approved the grant contract in another public forum.
Great, thank you.
So Amanda, since you did mention that the next couple of items have a connection to our fiscal year 2022 budget, does it, is there any value in addressing those first and then adopting the budget, or make any difference?
Nope, because they're pretty new. They aren't in the schedules for A, B, and C, but we'll do them through a budget amendment or budget adjustment procedure, and you'll see them. We'll add them in there, but at some point I have to say stop. Otherwise, this living, breathing dragon will continue forever.
Okay, we will drive a stake through the heart of the dragon here. What do you think?
I'm sorry Commissioner Slotnick couldn't be here, but I move to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget resolution and set appropriations as outlined in attachments A, B, and C.
I will second that. Any further public comment? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Kill the dragon. Thanks, Amanda.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, everyone. Aaron, we've got some dollars to deal with here also. So we have a SAMHSA Emergency COVID-19 Fund to provide an amended contract for that in the amount of $252,256.
Yeah, thank you. So as you may remember, oh, I don't know what happened to my screen, but hopefully you can still see me. Can you still see me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
You are,
It got weird on my end
taking
here.
up the entire screen as a matter.
Oh gosh, lucky you. So last, I think November, we had a contract signed with, it's actually through the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. They received funding from SAMHSA to provide behavioral health services related to COVID throughout Montana. So Missoula got an allocation of that. And initially it was $130,000, and we had to divvy it up in specific ways. 70% had to go to people with a severe mental illness or a substance use disorder. 20% had to go to anybody with a mental health disorder, and then 10% had to go to healthcare providers affected by COVID. So we had been allocating those funds based on that, working with, initially the 70% went to the jail mental health staff, 20% went to All Nations, and 10% went to Red Willow for some resiliency classes with healthcare providers. So we did get notice from the state that they got an extension on the contract and additional funds, which is always good news. And so we now have until August of 2022 to spend down the funds. And instead of the $130,000, we now have $252,256. And so this amended contract reflects that. And then the only other change that I'll make note is that we have changed the 70% that was going to the jail mental health staff. That is going to be funded through the county tribal matching grant again. And we are allocating that 70% to 2 clinicians with the mobile support team. And so that's basically kind of where we're at with that contract. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
I'm afraid to ask any questions or say anything and jinx it. Like, this is incredible to have this extension and then double the award amount. That's well done.
If only every grant was this easy, right?
I don't even want to talk about this. It's like, I will just.
Well, is there any public comment on this item? Okay, how about a motion?
No, motion to approve the chair sign the amended contract.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Fantastic. Aye.
Aaron, you have the next one too.
I do, and I'll just make a note that I'll be working on some amended subcontracts as well for that previous item, and we'll be bringing those to you in the next couple of weeks as well. So this contract is the also with the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services. This is our county and tribal matching grant, which I know at this point you're familiar with, but just to give a brief description for everyone else who's listening in. This is a grant that we get through the state for to provide crisis diversion from the Montana State Hospital and from jail diversion. So this in the past has been a 2-year fund, a 2-year grant. They have amended it, so it's going to be a 1-year grant this year. We were allocated $671,784.12 this year that we have that we were granted, which is exciting. And it is going to fund a variety of services. As I mentioned, it's going to fund the jail mental health staff. It pays for our CIT training for law enforcement and first responders, that's the crisis intervention team. It, in the past, has paid for our CIT coordinator, but it sounds like the city is going to hard fund that this year. So we are diverting those funds to be used as a CIT data analyst position that will work closely with Teresa Williams so that we can really measure how successful these efforts are. It's going to help support also some of the mobile support team. It's going to help it funds our mental health coordinator for the county, and she's doing great work. And it's fun. It just funds a variety of things. I'm sorry, I could go on. And if anybody has any specific questions, let me know. But this is our contract with the state for that. And it's similar to the SAMHSA grant. I'm also working on the subcontracts, and we'll be hopefully getting those to you in the next couple of weeks as well.
Thanks, Aaron. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Any public comment on this item? Seeing none.
Motion that the chair sign the contract number 22-33-1-7411-0.
Okay, that is in order. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you. And the only other thing I'll note is that the state was going to send this through DocuSign, and I did hear from them this morning that they haven't gotten it over to us yet. So hopefully we'll be getting it in the next couple of days, and it will get routed to you for signatures. So
Okay, I will keep my eyes peeled for that. Thank you.
thank you.
Nicole, looks like you've got the next couple of items. The first related to, is it Novaron?
Yeah,
Novaron?
yeah. So this is a new Big Sky Trust Fund job creation grant application. Novaron is a San Diego-based bioscience company, and I have their CEO, Travis Stiles, hopefully still in the meeting. And I'm going to ask, hi, Travis. Yeah, thanks for being here. So Novaron is interested in opening an office in Missoula, possibly in the Montech. They have a Montana connection through a funder, through Two Bear Capital, which is based in Kalispell and a venture capital firm. So yes, I've been talking to them over the last month. They're highly interested in coming here to Missoula and creating 4 jobs over the next 2 years. So I'll hand things over to Travis and let him give a brief presentation about Novaron.
Thanks. Travis, tell us about what your company does.
Yeah, hi. So first of all, I am just super glad that my Microsoft Teams is working. I think this might be the first time that that's happened. So I think we're off to a good start here. Although, so I didn't really know exactly kind of what format to do this in. I actually have a PowerPoint, but I don't need to use it. I'll just give you the kind of the brief history of Novaron. So we are spin out from UC San Diego. We're developing kind of like large molecules, so like protein-based drugs to promote regeneration of the central nervous system. So brain and spinal cord type stuff. The kind of the cool little niche that we fit in is, I think most people can relate to the idea that nowadays, people can get fingers or even arms chopped off, in accidents and have them put back on, and people can regain some function. Just really, really crazy stuff that we can do now. But people who get spinal cord injuries are still, permanently disabled. And so the kind of dogma for, literally thousands of years has always been that nerves in the brain and spinal cord are just super fancy. The nerves in your body do, like, they move muscles and they feel pain and whatnot, but nerves in your brain do things like language and dreams and art. And so like the level of complexity needed there is it's just so much that if something bad happens, it can't repair itself. And then there was a study done literally in the 80s. So we're talking scientifically pretty recently, where in this study probably wouldn't pass animal protocols anymore. But what they did is they actually took optic nerve cells, so the brain being, or the eyeball being part of the brain, and they took the cell bodies from the retina and they sutured them onto the end of a sciatic nerve graft. And then they took the same nerves from that sciatic nerve graft and sutured them onto the end of that optic nerve. And the reason that was an interesting idea is because they basically took those nerves that were from the brain and put them and sutured them to an environment that was from the peripheral nerve system, and vice versa. And interestingly, those nerves that they sutured from the body into the optic nerve graft that would normally grow back great, as soon as they hit that optic nerve site, they stopped growing. But the nerves that they took from the eye, and so, I mean, this is weird, but they took an eyeball and sutured it onto a nerve in the leg, those nerves grew all the way in. So nerves that they would typically not think were capable of growth showed that they have the intrinsic capacity. And that's basically the foundation for the last 30 years of work, where people were like, wow, we can actually, those nerves have the ability to grow. It's just something about their environment that stops them. So Novaron had, we spun this technology out of UCSD based on the discovery of a new receptor that was involved with sensing those cues that from the environment of the brain and spinal cord that stop the regeneration. So the whole point of Novaron, when we spun out, is to develop drugs to exploit that receptor in a way that we could. In the easiest way to say it is so that we can promote regeneration, so that we can regenerate the nervous system. But the truth is, we're actually just giving the nervous system back its normal ability to regenerate by blocking those negative signals and just allowing them to grow as they and repair themselves as they normally would. So when we first started talking to Mike Gogan and Two Bear Capital, we were largely framing ourselves as a spinal cord multiple sclerosis company that happened to be targeting this receptor, this LRP1 receptor that I mentioned, that as our means to promoting this neural repair. The program that we have that's furthest along happens to be spinal cord injury, where we right at the beginning of the pandemic, we came super close to having this shut down because all the animal facilities ended up getting shut down. But we got in just under the line. But we did this large kind of like, we did a kind of a clinical trial using rats, right? Where we did it blinded, multiple cohort, using a really well-established, really prominent spinal cord injury research institute, the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis at the University of Miami, and found that we got this really robust response in terms of just making animals walk again. And I was gonna show you guys the data, but I can actually, I can share now. If you guys don't mind, I'll just show you even just this one slide because it's the best. So let's see. Can you guys see my Novaron thing here?
Yep.
So now my Teams is giving me weirdness. No. Okay. So we can still see this. We're good here.
Yep.
Okay. So the graph here on the right is just showing you, yeah, look at statistically we saw a difference. But I really want to draw your attention to the pictures down here on the bottom left. So on the far left is a picture of what these animals look like right after they get paralyzed. And so you can see that they basically their whole hind quarters. This is like a mid-spine thoracic injury. So they basically drag their whole hindquarters. So the tops of their feet drag across the ground. Their tail is limp. They can't really pick their stomachs up off the ground. Now, because most human, like the vast majority of human spinal cord injuries are contusion based, so car accidents, crush injuries, very, very few spinal cord injuries are actually what we call transection injuries, where somebody's like stabbed or shot and the spinal cord's just completely severed. They're mostly traumatic, mechanical injuries. And so you do get some recovery from that initial onslaught. So you can see if you look at the bottom or the next panel here, the middle one, that's what an animal looks like after about 6 weeks of recovery after spinal cord injury, even with no treatment. So they start to be able to kind of pull their feet up, and they almost look like little seals. They try to like waddle. They'll push their little feet to the side, but they're not strong enough and don't have the motor control enough to actually put their feet underneath them to take steps. Their tails don't pick up. But when we treated these animals with our drug, Novo-118, as you can see on the far right there, these animals largely return to almost normal. I mean, when you watch them walk around, you can tell they're not normal. They still haven't recovered their coordination yet, but they're taking steps. They're physically walking. And so that's kind of the premise of what our technology can do. Now, how do I turn this off now if I want to go back and end slideshow? And then how do I go back to I am not good at this Teams things, guys. I apologize. Okay, we're good. Am I back?
Okay. You're back.
So the reason that's really cool, besides the obvious part of that's what we sought out to do, is it's a really good proof of concept, because in general, the science behind what we're doing is we didn't discover this receptor. We didn't discover this drug target because, it's really highly implicated in spinal cord injury. If you can imagine that we're just giving the brain or spinal cord back its ability to repair itself. So there's a lot of diseases and conditions and things where that could be relevant. And so our other program is in multiple sclerosis, where there's a lot of really good multiple sclerosis drugs out there, but multiple sclerosis being an autoimmune disease where the immune system attacks the myelin of the brain, all those drugs are basically aimed at blocking the immune system so that you get fewer attacks, less severe attacks. But nothing out there actually repairs the damage after those attacks occur. And this technology has that potential to do that. And we've got cool data for that as well. But when we approached TwoBear and where things are really exciting, and why we're really excited about expanding into Montana, is most recently the same receptor that we've been working on for years, this LRP1 receptor, was serendipitously found, had nothing to do with us. But multiple labs have reported since April of 2020 that this receptor is now the major regulator of tau spread in tauopathies. And for those of you who aren't familiar, so Alzheimer's disease is a proteinopathy where there's kind of two major components. You have your amyloid proteins and your tau proteins. And amyloid has been the target for most Alzheimer's therapies for decades, but people are starting to realize now that tau is the better target. It mostly precedes amyloid, and et cetera, et cetera. And one of the really cool things about or not cool, it's not great, but one of the really fascinating things about tauopathies, like Alzheimer's disease, is this ability of, it's almost like you have regions of the brain that are making too much of, or not making it in the right form of this tau protein. And this tau protein is a normal protein. It's not a disease. It's not an infection. It's this normal protein that starts to get messed up. And so in the tiny regions of the brain where that happens, it starts in one spot, and that region starts to get realizing we have a problem. And so it starts shipping it out other places, just dumping off its garbage into other regions of the brain. And this ability to kind of ship out these bad versions of protein across the brain is why you get spread of these tauopathies, and you start to get diverse regions of the brain that get sick. So the ability to stop that tau spread and keep those defects local would be a really big benefit. And we have, as we've been developing drugs against this receptor for a long time, we all of a sudden had this really big head start into something that's now very hot. And so that shift has really shifted our focus. We always knew that our unique niche was that we discovered this cool receptor. But in terms of being a really small company just spinning out of a university, you really have to emphasize the indication you're looking at. With the interest in tauopathies like Alzheimer's, we've now been able to go from being a spinal cord company that happens to be targeting LRP1 to an LRP1 company that happens to be targeting spinal cord and really expand our capabilities. So we're really looking to expand into Montana to be able to dramatically improve our abilities to do some of the animal work we want to do. We're very interested in some of the collaborations that, and I'm totally blanking on the site that's out by Bozeman. Anyway, no, I'll remember later. Mike Kavanaugh is the guy we've been talking to out there. And ideally,
Travis?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. This is super interesting. One question I have for you that we oftentimes like to ask all the folks who are seeking Big Sky Economic Development Trust Fund dollars, and I think you're starting to hint at it, is why Missoula, Montana?
Sure. So, and I'll be really honest with you. There's a couple reasons. One is Mike and Two Bear have a very specific interest in developing Montana infrastructure. Two, there's obviously a pretty significant difference in overhead costs between Montana and you really think of the three other major hubs that people would go to: Boston, San Francisco, and San Diego. Major difference in overhead. Three, we already had identified talent in the Montana area that was of interest to us in order to bring on. But probably above everything else was the really unique opportunity with the University of Montana. By the way, congratulations to the Montana Grizz on their win last weekend. Very, very big win. But the unique opportunity with the public-private partnership there that I think was pioneered by Jay and the rest of the Inimmune group really gives us a really unique opportunity to have kind of a more immersive and integrative kind of approach to our animal studies, where we get a lot of the benefits and of kind of an academic environment where with our animal studies. And I'll be honest with you, one of the hardest parts about spinning this company out is missing that kind of opportunity and being immersed with other people kind of looking at similar things. There's obvious benefit in terms of just the cost of running the operation. Our investor, who has been a tremendous kind of advocate and has gone above and beyond in terms of how they've worked with us as an investor, has a concerted interest. We already identified talent, and I don't know if you guys have had a lot of fun trying to hire people lately, but it's not super easy. So having that kind of already laid out, it's great. And I really think the mentality that we've been discussing internally is the capabilities that we want to grow and expand. Some of them don't exist. Some of the things we want to do in terms of optimizing drug delivery and doing some of the disease models we want to do aren't out there. So there's a part of us that thinks there's if we build it, they will come type of scenario, where if we can pioneer some of these techniques and build a core team in Montana, that we can also be able to there's the business opportunity, which I'll be honest isn't a big motivator for me, where people might want to start using the system that we set up. And then there's the actual scientific opportunity, where I truly believe that there's a major gap in how we develop drugs for the brain and spinal cord. There are things that we can do to deliver drugs in humans that we can't do in the animal models that we use. And the technology exists to bridge that gap. But just nobody's done it for this central nervous system yet. And that's what I want to set up in Montana. And because it would probably cost us twice or more as much to do that down here, it gives us a little bit more freedom to take a little bit more time, do it right, make mistakes without feeling like we're going to fall apart, and build a strong team there.
Thanks, Travis. Thank you. Any other questions, Juanita?
No, this is really exciting. I feel like we're cutting Travis off, but I know we have others.
Yeah, we have a few other agenda items we need to move on, but thanks, Travis, for your presentation. We look forward to your success here in Missoula, Montana. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, anything else you want to add, Nicole, as far as our action here, which is approving a resolution authorizing application to the Big Sky Economic Development Trust Fund Job Creation Program on behalf of Novaron?
Nothing to add.
Great. I'd motion to approve the resolution authorizing application to the Big Sky Trust, Big Sky Economic Development Trust Fund. Sure.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good luck, Travis.
Good luck, Travis.
you.
Thank
Nice
you
to meet
so
y'all.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole, you have the next item too. This one similarly, Big Sky Economic Development Trust Fund grant assisting, in this case, Newfields Mining and Energy Services.
Right, so
That's
this is for an
tough.
existing grant. This is for Newfields. They have hired 3 new people, and so this is a request for reimbursement for $22,500.
Okay, any questions on this one?
No.
Any public comment on this particular item? Okay, how about a motion?
Motion to approve the request for payment.
I will second that. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Really exciting, Nicole. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks,
Have a great
Nicole.
day.
Chris, we have a PSA before us today. Want to elaborate on that?
You bet. So commissioners, this is a request for you to sign a professional services agreement with CMS, which is a company based out of Helena. We've been working with them over the last couple of years to review salaries in Missoula County, as well as develop a compensation philosophy for Missoula County. And we've completed those 2 steps. The last step in this project is to review our classification system. So just as a quick reminder, when we hire for positions in our non-union personnel plan, and also for the Federation contract, which covers most of the employees in the courthouse, we use a classification system that looks at the different skills, knowledge, abilities, working environment that folks are going to work in. And then that classification system helps us determine where in our pay plan folks should be compensated. And so this is a review of that system to kind of update and modernize it to reflect our more current market environment. And the amount of the contract is $37,070.
Thank you. Any public comment on this item? All right, any questions?
No, we don't have anyone here from HR. Nope.
I don't believe so.
Motion to approve and sign the PSA.
I will second that. Any further discussion on the motion or additional public comment? See none, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a letter of support to accompany a grant application for a state tourism grant for the Rocky Mountain Gardens and Exploration Center. And I see Nancy Rattel has joined us. Are you going to say a few words about this, Nancy?
I am. Jerry Marks was planning to be here, but he is out of town, so I'm the surrogate Jerry. And also online is Jean Jenkins. She's the foundation coordinator that does magic over there at the Weed District and all of that wonderful stuff going on. So Jean is here if you have any additional questions. This is really just an administrative piece. The grants division is helping the Weed District to seek tourism. This is a state tourism grant fund or program to fund audiovisual equipment for the wet lab. So what we're asking of you is one piece of the application components is this what's called a letter of commitment, long-term maintenance commitment. So it's just really the funder is saying, okay, if we invest in this, we just need to have assurances that there will be long-term maintenance, to take care of what we're investing in. So this is the purpose of the letter, is just for you all to say, yes, yes. We will make sure that there's money in the budget through the Weed District account to maintain that audiovisual equipment.
Thank you. Jean, is there anything that you'd like to add? Are you muted, Jean?
There we go. Thank you. No, I think Nancy has covered it well. She's guided us through this process, and we just appreciate the ongoing support. We know you're behind this project full bore. So this is just one piece of of the puzzle to try and put together additional support.
Very good. Questions?
No, we
Juanita.
need, we need AV in the wet lab and it needs to be maintained.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Any,
you.
is there any public comment on this particular item? Well, we actually don't need a motion. We're just going to be signing this letter of support that will be distributed presumably via DocuSign. Is that correct, Nancy? Or not DocuSign, ReadySign, I guess it is?
You know, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know how the staff will be handling it. I just know I get a copy of it that I will then include in the packet.
Okay, I got a thumbs up from Violet that we will receive the electronic copy of this to sign and get that shipped off to where it needs to go.
All right. Thank you so much, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, anything else that we need to discuss this morning? Okay, we apologize for any background noise. There was some squeaking going on in the other room. I don't know if that was some animal experimentation happening in our midst, but in any event, thanks everyone for joining us. We will catch you. Well, you can join us this afternoon for our public meeting for more fun and excitement. So until then, have a good day.
Thank you.